Hey guys, thanks for coming back to the channel and joining our journey. Olivia and I are escaping California for our Hidden Valley homestead in Idaho. But today, we're gonna crack some nuts. Alright guys, if you guys are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. That would really help us out. And if you guys have a comment, please leave it. We do read all the comments and we answer all the questions that you guys might have. So to this macadamia nut tree that we had, we bought this place with the nut tree. I built a couple of drying racks over there in my shelves over there, so that if you guys aren't familiar with what a macadamia nut looks like, let me show you right now. The difference is a green one that just fell off the tree, and then a dried one with the husk, and then just the shell. So this is the time of year when we normally get Santa Ana winds about this time of year, October, November, and the nuts in the tree start to dry out. And if you take a look, this is what the macadamia nuts look like as they're still hanging on the tree. Now these are still filling out. These aren't, they're not small, but they're not, they're another month or two and these things will be ready to start falling. So you don't usually have to pick these. They will actually fall to the ground. And you can start seeing these things in our yard, and you can see them. They have fallen on the ground. So you can see that's how they fall to the ground. This is what they look like with a husk. Now that's got the green husk on the outside. You peel off the husk, and these husks are still green. And there is the macadamia nut. Now that is the hardest shell in the world, 4,000 psi per square inch. So that's the shell. So let me show you what they look like when they're dried out. So I built these drying racks. It's basically some window screen on the bottom with a wooden frame that I can slide in and out. And that allows air. I put the green ones in here, and that allows air to pass through, and it will dry out these husks. After a couple of months, they're nice and dry. These things have shriveled up and shrunk. And I'll show you what those look like. Now here's my box. This is what they look like after they've dried. And you can see how the husks, basically they shrink and they split apart. Now these things they're hard. They're brittle, but they're still pretty hard. So it's actually pretty rough on your hands to try and peel these things off. Sometimes they pop right out. Sometimes they don't. But you can imagine trying to do this whole bucket. Trying to do that whole bucket one by one, or trying to do it by hand. We love macadamia nuts. We love them in our cookies. We love them in our, what was that stuff you just made? Biscotti. We love them in everything. And so trying to do, ones or twos of these for every time that Olivia wants to make some biscotti or some cookies, yeah, forget about it. So I was on the hunt for a nutcracker, and not a manual one. But let me show you all the manual ones. I started collecting nutcrackers, so I got some cool ones. Since it's the season for cracking nuts, season of the nutcracker, let's show you what I got. So here's one of my first ones that I found at a garage sale. I don't know what year this thing is, but this is an old-fashioned nutcracker. And it even has a little pointed ends for picking the nuts out. Now I've never even actually tried this, but I'll try it right now just for the sake of it. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, that one ain't gonna work, but it sure looks cool. So most everybody here, almost all you guys are familiar with this, right? Almost everybody's got one of these. Any of you back there in the Midwest or back east that has a walnut tree or a filbert tree, up in the Pacific Northwest, there's a lot of filberts. So this is the one that almost everybody is familiar with. Trying to crack a macadamia nut shell, well, it worked. There we go. That one was pretty dry. That's good. It's crispy. Okay, I'll try another one. I was actually hoping that one wasn't going to work for you guys, but it worked really good. There. That's what I was expecting right there. I'll probably bend these. Yeah, look at that. They want to bend. I got lucky on that other one, you guys. That one popped right open. Oh, here we go. There we go. That one popped open. Okay, so there's the macadamia nut meat. That's what they call it. There's your meat. Well, you guys can see how hard that was. I love macadamia nuts. My favorite. You can see how hard that was and how sore your hands would get after a while trying to do too many of these things. Here's another one that I picked up at a garage sale. I want to see if this one works. I don't think I ever really tried these because they were... Oh, those bent. I bent it right there. Yep, that one's not going to work. Of course, we could try old Chipmunk here and see if that, see if that's going to work, but yeah, I don't think so. I think he's more ornamental than anything. I picked him up at a garage sale. That's my favorite nutcracker. And with the season of Christmas here, we have a nutcracker. I don't think this one's ever going to work either. Yeah, I could probably tap that with a hammer, but then I wouldn't want to break it. But I picked that one up at an antique store, I think, somewhere. So, all of the ornamental nutcrackers aside, let's get down to business here. We can see the ones that didn't work. Here's one that was supposed to work, and there's quite a few of these. These are antiques as well. And these were adjustable. And these worked out pretty good, but this one, yeah, it's cracking. You can see how this handle's bent. Oh, did I hit you?
It shot at me.
It shot at you?
Yeah.
Well, okay, sorry about that, honey. There we go, guys. Check that out. Hey, I got the nut out. It didn't smash it. Didn't make macadamia nut butter. Want a nut?
Sure.
It's a nice fresh one. Alright, guys, so you can see that one that one kind of worked, but it was pretty tough. So this is the one. These are all the ones I picked up at garage sales just for the pure fun of buying different kinds of nutcrackers, different styles. This is the one that I spent 80 bucks for that you buy. I think they only sell them in Hawaii. You might be able to get them around here, but you can get them off of Amazon. But it was $79.95. This one works really, really good. So this one's got basically a vise, okay, and it's got leverage on it with this long handle, and you put this thing down in here. It is really easy to pop this nut. See how easy that was, guys? There we go. Yum. Alright, so this one works really good. You got a small nut, goes way down in the bottom of the vise jaws right there, right? Pops right open. Or you got a big giant one, doesn't go as far down. It'll go a little bit higher up in the jaws. Look at that, got it out as almost one whole piece. Another nut, honey? Alright, guys, so this is the good nutcracker. When I finally found this one, we thought, oh, we've died and gone to heaven. We can have all the macadamia nuts we want. These are fantastic. The problem is, in order to get enough nuts to do one batch of cookies, that's probably a good half an hour worth of time. So after using this little doohickey for a number of years, I was starting to get overloaded with macadamia nuts. They were starting to build up from year to year. I had some left over from the year before because we didn't get them all cracked. So they sat in the drying bin. And then we have these moths, the mealy moths get to them. And there's a little bit of a crack in the shell. They want to lay their little egg in there. And it'll lay their little larva. And that little larva will eat the inside of it and spin its web. And then it will eventually do a cocoon, turn into another little mealy moth, and start the process over. So I would have lots of nuts that would go to waste because we could not crack them fast enough. I had so many coming off the tree. So the hunt began for a mechanized or motorized nutcracker. So another reason I'm doing this video for you guys is that a lot of you guys have walnut trees or you have orchards. You've got a whole tree in your yard. And so you can't keep up with the nut production either. You give away nuts all the time. Now, one thing about the macadamia nut, because it is the hardest shell in the world to crack, I couldn't go with just any nutcracker. You can see all those other nutcrackers that I had. half of those were actually real, true blue nutcrackers that people use, especially these good old-fashioned standbys. Almost everybody's got a pair of these sitting there with their their almonds or their walnuts, you know, during the holiday, and they use these things to pop open their nuts for snacks, right? But the macadamia nut, it was going to need a special cracker. I didn't want to spend a ton of money, but I was getting tired of doing it by hand. Hence, the Universal Nutcracker came up. I started searching online. I found Corey Walker up in Oregon, who was making this custom mechanized nutcracker that would handle macadamia. He guaranteed it would handle a macadamia nut. It would handle the hardest nut in the world. So here it is. Okay, so there's a little door in there. When you open and close that little door, you can close the aperture. Alright, now in there is a spinning blade. Now that blade has got little edges on it, and as the nuts go through, that little blade will catch it and will pop it out. Okay, so I'm just going to be dehusking these first. Popped open. Darn it. So I'm going to open up that aperture a little bit bigger. There we go. See how it just popped those husks right off. See, that's all that's left is the husk. It just pops those husks right off instead of doing these one at a time by hand. Oh, that one's bad anyway. It makes it a lot faster. Now obviously you got to spend a little bit of time here at the sorting table, but run these suckers through. That was a lot faster than doing these one by one. A lot easier on the fingers. Alright guys, there you go. So that's what we have. The first part of the aperture, there's all the husks. And then this is what we have left. Now, I opened up the aperture on the cracker so that all it was doing was taking off the husks. And then we have just the raw nuts. So we're going to go put this in the oven right now. Alright guys, these things are nice and toasty. So I typically am going to let these things cool down a little bit because they're hot. So I'm going to let them cool down for an hour before I take them out there and pop them. But that's basically what you get. There's a few in here where the little crack is actually opened up a little bit wider. And you can tell that those are the bad nuts. Here's a nut right here that cracks. It's kind of hard to see that crack right there, but those cracks will actually come open a little bit wider when they have a bad nut inside. All right, let these cool down for a little bit, and then we're gonna go out there and pop them open. All right, guys, we got some nuts that have been dried, they've been husked, and they've been roasted. And now it's time to pop these bad boys open. So pop it on the machine. My aperture is pretty good size. It's actually on the wide side. Some of these nuts aren't that wide, but I'm going to go ahead and start putting these things through. There we go. Check that out, guys. Look how easy that was. I have nut meat right there. So a few of these, and they come out, most of the time they come out in halves, but a lot of times they come out as a whole nut. So these are a little bit on the smaller side. So that one went right through the aperture. So I'm going to leave these in here, throw away these nuts in there. Put some more through. Okay, so the aperture is too big for almost all these nuts. I'm going to put a few more through. Yep, they're all too big. So I need to close down this aperture. Tighten that bad boy down. Here we go. Look at that beautiful nut meat popping out. Holy smokes. That was easy. Okay, so those are some small ones right there. Alright, look at that, guys. So you got a little bit of sorting to do. You got to pick up the nut meat. But man, compared to the one at a time that I was doing with that other thing, this is way faster. And this machine doesn't crush the nut. Now that's the other advantage to roasting these nuts beforehand. If you roast them beforehand, it'll make that shell a little bit more on the brittle side. So that way it'll pop right open. A lot of times the shell will pop right in half. With minimal effort, you can get the nut meat right out. The other advantage to roasting the nuts before you pop them open, not only does it make the shell brittle, but it also makes the nut meat shrink a little bit and pull away from the sides of the shell. And so when you pop these things open and you run it through the machine, and it splits these things in half, the nut meat is shrunk a little bit. It'll almost always pop out all by itself, just like you saw right there. All right. So guys, this is our Macadamia Nutcracker put up by Universal Nutcracker. Guys, I'll leave you a link for Corey Walker down in the description at the bottom, and you guys can call him up if you guys have got a nut orchard that you need to have a machine for. Corey Walker would be the guy you'd want to call. He custom makes them. He's super nice on the phone. If I had the money, I would probably buy the bigger tabletop nutcracker, but I don't have that many nuts to do. That big bucket of nuts that we're gonna go through right there, we'll be able to blow through that in just a couple of hours and get those all sorted out. And then we'll have almost a year's supply of nuts for cookies and whatever we're gonna be using. So this little nutcracker is gonna be sufficient for my needs. So I'm going to leave a link to Corey Walker and the Universal Nutcracker down in the description at the bottom for you guys that want to check him out. Any of you guys that have an orchard where you have a lot of nuts that you've got to process, give Corey a call. Please tell him I sent you. I did that video, like I said, 7 or 8 years ago, and he got quite a few calls off that. He didn't track how many sales he got off of that video, but I wasn't intending to try and pump up his business in any way, shape, or form. I was just really excited about what I had found and put a video out on YouTube before I even knew what YouTube was really all about, and it got an insane amount of views. Alright guys, so this little nutcracker right here is exactly what I needed for my tree. I needed something heavy duty for these macadamia nuts, and just everything else I had looked at just wasn't going to work. Now, I took this off of my wife's KitchenAid and I built this machine and this mount for it. Because I didn't want to strip out the gears on her KitchenAid. Now, if Corey still decides to make one of these KitchenAid attachments for you, then it'll probably do just fine with every other nut that's out there, and it won't be too hard on your KitchenAid. Otherwise, he is really pushing that tabletop version that he has, and if you've got a big tree that you've got to process a lot of pounds of nuts every year, that tabletop version is going to be well worth the money spent. The amount of time it takes you to crack those nuts open versus running them through a machine, you're going to save a ton of time and you're going to save a ton of energy. So Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all of your comments. Please leave me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you didn't like the video. Tell me why. This is part of our process and our journey. This is something, part of our experience that we've had down here in California was our macadamia nut tree. We've really enjoyed it. Now, over this next year or so, as we start to make our journey and our transition to Idaho, I plan on building a wallopini. In the future, I'll be having a video coming out talking about my orchard that I have in my urban homestead right here on my small little patch of property here in California. I have not only a macadamia tree, but I have fruit trees in the back of my yard, and I've done something very, very special with those trees. We wanted to have enough green grass for the kids to run and play, but I also wanted to have trees, and I wanted to have fruit trees. I was a firm believer that I'm not really into the ornamental type of tree. If the tree is something I'm going to be tending and taking care of and pruning and watering and caring for, I want that thing to give me something back. So every tree that I own in my backyard as well as my front yard produces something and gives me back. So that was part of our urban homesteading idea. Now, some of these trees I have grown very, very fond of. I'll tell you, I have an avocado tree. I of course have a macadamia nut tree. I actually have two of them now. One of the nuts sprouted and grew in my one of my little planters out front, and it's actually putting out nuts as well too. And I also have an orange tree. Now those three trees need to have more heat and don't do well with frost, and they actually will die if they freeze. However, if I put those trees in a wallopini, I can keep an avocado tree small, I can keep it trimmed and keep it dwarf. The orange tree that I have is a dwarf orange tree, puts out big, fat, giant, softball sized oranges every year. And the macadamia nut tree is a 25-foot ball with a 25-foot height max. So if I do a wallopini, it's going to be a big one, but if I do a wallopini style greenhouse, I can have all three of those I would consider those subtropical trees year-round in Idaho. There's that old guy Finch I've told a bunch of you guys about. I've said it in my life. There's that old guy up there in the northeast that's growing citrus year-round, and he does it in a wallopini style greenhouse, and that's what keeps the temperatures up so he can grow that citrus year-round in frigid cold weather all the time. So thanks guys for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video.